Mike Lindell showed up. Okay.
Thanks for having me on.
No problem, no problem. Okay, so Mike, let's just jump right into it. Are you still going on about the last election?
If you follow me, you would know that what I'm going on about is getting rid of the machines and getting to paper ballots hand counted, like so many other countries around the world have outlawed, and they get to paper ballot. I want to have elections. Since in the spring of 21, I went on Jimmy Kimmel, and Jimmy Kimmel asked me, he said, Mike, he goes, if your friend Donald Trump had been selected, like you say Biden was, would you still be sounding an alarm? By that time, I already knew it wasn't about who won. It's what we have to have secure elections. That's what I've been about.
I think that's pretty reasonable. I think paper ballots are important.
Right, absolutely. 17 countries have outlawed the machines. Another about 30 countries have outlawed early voting, mail-in voting. Here in the United States, we have the worst election platforms in the world. And Democrats, remember, they wanted the machines gone for a long time. These uniparty Republicans that I fight every single day, including Robin Voss right here in Wisconsin, it's disgusting that they want to keep the machines.
So does Donald Trump and his crew still support what you're doing, or have they distanced themselves a little bit from you?
As far as what? No, he says it all the time. Paper ballots, hand counted. He wants to get there. He wants no matter what happens, we have to get there.
So look, if you say paper ballots, Anna and I agree. It's it depends on the details. No. It depends on the details, right? But we agree on recounts, hand recounts, etc. But do you really think that that election was stolen in 2020? Still, after all this time, after all the courts said it wasn't, after there was no evidence?
Here's what I say: the 2020 election will go down as the most important election in history, and here's why. But in November and December of 2020. I did my own investigation. I went out and got the voter rolls. And what I seen, and I got them in every state and every county by the time. It took about 2-3 months. But what I noticed was people voted in all these states that didn't live there and counties. And that disturbed me because I couldn't imagine in my own home state of Minnesota, hey, I get 5,000 people going, hey, you guys, let's go and jump into Wisconsin and commit a crime. People are genuinely good people. And I couldn't explain it. It didn't make sense. So then when I got evidence given to me on January 9th of 2021, that it was done by computers, that explained that you could do the power of numbers and something like that. And since that time, do I believe it was taken then? I believe it was taken then. Yes, I do. I believe it was stolen. But I'm so glad that Donald Trump did not get put back in that, because it took 3 years. We would have lost our country forever. It took 3 years of what I've done, my teams on the ground, and the investigations into all the stuff that's been revealed. What the Democrats, my own Senator Amy Klobuchar and Kamala Harris said, there's problems with these machines. We got to get rid of these computers. All that's been exposed through cast vote records, which is under the Freedom of Information Act. We all can request these. We got them all, and there was almost every county was computer manipulated one way or another.
And no one else agrees.
Not just with Republicans, Democrats too. I deal with Democrats on that level because they'll be more helpful. I was in Georgia. This lady got in the summer of 22, 3 Democrats, this nice lady, her husband, she got 0 votes in her own precinct. Crooked Brad Rassenberger, the Secretary of State of Georgia, they actually had to quick look into it. Oh, I'm sorry, you got 3,000 some votes. She went from 3rd to 1st. Another Democrat, 4 counties over, she got 4,600 votes, but she wasn't on the ballot. And these things, as we investigated, and right now in Georgia, they finally brought this last fall. She was an Obama-appointed judge. She brought this case, the Curling case, against Crooked Brad Rassenberger, now the Secretary of State. Can I say that on your show?
You can say it because hold on.
So anyway, but I'm going to finish explaining. So finally, the case in the fall, in October, the judge said, you know what? These experts, this Alex Halderman, that he got to look inside the computers, and he says there's problems. So we're going to push this forward. And she said, if you question the machines, you're not a conspiracy theorist. I got to take off my tinfoil hat on my show. Jimmy Kimmel had it on there. He said, well, could be taken off. But this case went to court on January 9th of this year. The Halderman hacked into the machine in 5 minutes with a ballpoint pen in front of the judge. And the judge now is sitting on that to rule on. One of the few cases in the United States where a judge looked at stuff based on merit. And this isn't to overturn any election of 2020. This is, for me, What I'm doing now and what I've been focused on is get to paper ballots hand counted, no matter what it takes or what has to get revealed. We've got to get to where we have elections where everybody trusts them. In Kansas, in the 2022 election, I was getting from my team all these Democrat votes being flipped to Republican. At the same time, down in Arizona, in Kerry Lake, the machines 242 of them went bad. Why are we using these? If you have bad brakes on a car, you get rid of them.
Well, I have a question. Hold on.
No. Anna's going to ask the question. I just want to be clear to the audience. No one else agrees with what Mike Lindell's saying. Okay.
Well, the other
day, you hear that, audience?
Hold on.
But the CNN, they agree with me. They've been
okay. I'm just clear. Okay. Go ahead.
That way, nobody agrees that we should go to paper ballots hand counted.
No. All the so-called facts you said about the Raffensperger being third and then first and then votes switching. No one else believes that. Democrats don't believe that. Republicans don't believe that. Democrats who lost don't believe that. Republicans who lost don't believe that. I don't know why they.
Thanks for watching. Our audience has helped build TYT into the media giant it is today. Together, we can accomplish anything. Support our work and join us at tyt.com/team. I'd like to pivot a little bit if that's okay.
Yeah.
Because there have been some interesting developments during this convention. And as a successful business owner, I'm really curious what you think about it. Because yesterday, the Teamsters president gave a giant speech. He was the keynote speaker. I was impressed by the speech. To hear a pro-labor, pro-worker message at the Republican National Convention is pretty much unheard of. And as a business owner, when you hear a leader of a massive union talk about taking corporations to task, talk about increasing taxes and all of that, what are your thoughts about that?
My thoughts, I look at the situation we're in now that doesn't make sense, where the price of everything is going up, and it's because of shipping costs. And then you have open borders. You have these nonsensical things that don't help anybody. Either I'm talking about the people, no, not the party. So I look at things of anybody out there, whatever they're saying on the stage or whatever they're doing. If it's one thing to do what you're saying or say what you're doing, well, I look at stuff in real time and go, if politicians make decisions and you look at it and you go, okay, who's that going to help? They have a hidden agenda, and it's a very evil agenda.
Interesting.
That's where I'm at. I look at things. I spent time. I was in Chicago, in the heart of Chicago, a month ago. I invited 500 Democrats. All of them were in there, and I was filming them, talking to them all. They'll talk to me. They don't make me as evil. I was a former crack addict. I've said who I was. I'm very open of who I am, and I'm the American dream on steroids. To take that and get freedom for the grace of God. And get rid of those addictions. And I thought my calling would go around helping everybody out of addiction to Jesus Christ. And instead, this election stuff comes along. You think I'd still be sounding the alarm? They're going, hey, we got to overturn the 2020 election. No. That ship sailed. What it is I want to get to paper ballots hand counted because I know the dangers. Elon Musk.
But do you want to pay more in taxes?
As
a business owner?
I believe there could be different taxes. For me, I have my own thing. I believe there should be an internet tax. You have box stores that pay all this stuff. They pay for everything. And the internet, you have, including my company, you got all this stuff that you can put an internet tax out there. Then you're taxing, you're taxing these big things like your Amazons of the world, that these platforms that don't pay anything for the internet, to use the internet. The box stores, they have to all pay for rent and property tax and all these things. If you did that, the price of our goods would come down. They would come down.
Do you think they'd come down, really?
I think they would if we had an internet tax. At least you'd level the playing field for our box stores.
But I don't want people to miss it. So you're saying we're done with the 2020 election.
I have said that. If you've been following me, I haven't said one thing about overturning the 2020 since the spring of 21.
Okay.
And here,
right,
but I will say this. I want to say this. My biggest attack on my pillow, I've been sued for billions. Okay, billions upon billions. A company, employee-owned company, made in the USA. Everything we want is the American dream. They have been sued. They did nothing. There's CEOs out there going, hey, we need to go to paper ballots hand count. I came up with a plan last August to do just that. And since then, I've been attacked more than I was in 21. Every single day, G-Bank, G-Platform, G-This, and you know what? We're getting through it by the grace of God. But they, just like now, can I say my new plan right now? I want everyone in this country to request their mail-in ballot. Don't open it, and when you go to vote, if they say you already voted, you say, no, I didn't. This is called identity theft, like if I'd steal your identity. And this isn't a Democrat or Republican thing. This is a people thing. I have so many people, Democrats and Republicans, that went to vote. They said, I'm sorry, you already voted for it. It happened 3 months ago in Texas. This was on the news. A district attorney Democrat went to vote, and they said, I'm sorry, you already voted. She goes, no, I didn't. She can't prove it.
Well, Mike, that could happen in a very odd case, and that's why it made the news, because it was so odd, right?
No, it's because
but it doesn't happen.
She had a platform.
No, but every court that you've gone to, and that Trump has gone to, and that all of you guys have gone to, says there's absolutely no evidence of wide-scale fraud,
including judges that were appointed by Donald Trump.
Let's talk about Wisconsin here, okay? In 21. The Robin Voss, the biggest blocker I ever told you about, and he's a Speaker of the House here in Wisconsin. He ordered an investigation. He hired Michael Gableman, an ex-Supreme Court judge of Wisconsin. He did a year-long investigation, and at the end of the investigation, he had to list all this fraud that happened in Wisconsin. Robin Voss said, I know there was widespread fraud, but I can't do anything until a court rules on it. 2 weeks later, the Supreme Court of Wisconsin came out and said there was all this fraud, and Robin Voss went into hiding. That's fact. It's in the news. It's in the news. It's fact. Robin Voss was one of the biggest blockers to free our elections, to get us to paper ballots.
How do you explain Republican candidates winning in down ballot races in 2020 when, No, we're not talking about Republican. The Republicans in the primary, that's where they take out the candidates they want. We're not talking about the president. No, I'm talking about in general races for congressional seats, right? General races for congressional seats.
You know what I believe in? Yeah. The Uniparty. This isn't a Democrat or Republican thing. You have never heard me badmouth the Democrats. If you follow me, you know who I badmouth? Uniparty Republicans every single day, because they block me. I go into red states, Alabama. I'll give an example. Alabama, South Dakota, Arkansas, Missouri, Texas. They all block. You think I'd be able to go in there and go, oh, you guys are Republicans. You should get rid of these machines and get paper, right? First one I went to was John Merrill, Secretary of State, in the summer of 21. I went into Alabama, paid $40,000 for their voter rolls. I go, John, do you realize, and this is right out of their machines, John, do you realize that there's 4,660 people that voted here in Alabama that are over 110 years old? He looked at me and says, well, we live pretty good here in Alabama. I thought he was making a joke. He didn't even want to look into it,
So look, Mike throws out a lot of fact. I don't want to say facts. No. Mike throws out a lot of talking points, etc. Okay, and so I want you to know. Look, so we're not going to know about whether the local Alabama guy you talked to is actually said that or didn't say that, and so there's no way that I could instantly fact check you on that.
I agree.
Okay, but in terms of the courts that looked at the Trump, the Trump went to 60 and his allies went to 61 different courts. They lost every single time. That you claim Democrats and Republicans are losing because they got cheated, but they're not complaining that they got cheated. And so I don't know why they would give up their power voluntarily. So Mike, look, if you say verify the vote, everybody agrees, right? But once you start making allegations about things that are not provable.
You have not heard me say anything about the 2020 election since the summer of 21. I have sat out there and say, melt down the machines, turn them into prison bars, and I've been after every uniparty Republican. When I talk about the 2020 election, when I talk about that is the most important, because it's going to manifest and get us to a safe, that we should be the example to the world of good election. Democrats, Amy Klobuchar, Kamala Harris, in the movie Kill Chain in 2018, I know these guys, you can go watch it right now. All of them said, we've got to get rid of the machines because we can't rely on that. Our government deemed our election critical infrastructure. We got to treat it as such. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. We've got to treat it. Now, was it?
By the way, let me ask you one last thing about that.
Back then, did I want the election overturned to Donald Trump? Absolutely, for what I had seen. But You know what? Now that I know now, I'm so happy that didn't happen, because I had to find out over 3 years, hey, these are critical. We've got to go to paper ballots. I talked to France, Germany. I was on the phone with the UK in their recent election. We have learned what the best practices are, and we've got it up. We've got it up on my site. Here's where it is.
Why do you think that? I know I'm not making this a partisan thing,
Right.
but some of the same Republican lawmakers who were on your side about the election allegedly being stolen from Trump, why do you think that when they had the opportunity to vote on legislation to enhance our election security, they all voted no? Why do you think that?
I don't even think they looked at it, to be honest with you. I think you have a lot of fear out there. Judges have fear. Everybody has fear. When you talk about machines and stuff, here's why. On February 4th of 2021, Smartmatic sued Fox News. That started lawfare in this country that hadn't been done since 1792. All the conservative media, Fox News, Newsmax, Salem Media, they all cowered down. They're like weather channels that won't report tornadoes or hurricanes. So that happened. Who do I rely on? As you know, all my friends call me, these CNN that you see follow me. I'm friends with all these guys. They attack me, but I welcome that because I can get the word out. We got to go to paper ballot. You know what I've been doing over there at the convention? They go, in the news today, you can look it up, USA Today said, every question asked Mike Lindell, all he kept saying for the answer, we got to go to paper ballots and count it. All the other stuff to me is a distraction. So when you ask me about what they said on the stage, the Republican Party, that part don't matter. What I want to do is get to a free and fair election and save the American dream.
Last question about the elections. So Donald Trump, when he wants the Republicans to do something in Congress, is very good at it. He recently blocked the immigration bill that they had already agreed to. The Republicans actually had proposed it, and he said, no, take down your own bill, and they did. So why do you think that he never pressed Republicans in Congress to actually do election reform?
Right.
When theoretically he
This legislation to ensure paper ballots, for instance.
We didn't know enough. And if you guys know,
he could do it now.
There were so many deviations that happened in the 2020 where people illegally, Secretary of States across our country, both Democrat and Republican, made decisions based on an anomaly in history, because legislatures make the laws, not the Secretary of State. So the stuff they did then, right or wrong, some of them did it maybe for other reasons, but they did it because we were in an anomaly. Those things need to be looked at, and we go back to where we were. Why we don't have that stuff now? Why are we using? You're going to get into all different. There's 2 states that wanted to go to texting your ballot in and emailing it in.
Which states?
Where would we be? This was done in Utah and Oregon, in a couple counties.
They wanted people to vote by text?
By text and email. All of our UOCAVA votes are by email now. You know that, right?
I don't know that. I would have to fact check.
No, that's true. That's true. You can still do a 45-day mail-in ballot, but Obama.
Okay, so that didn't answer the Trump question.
But here's the question. The question is
that didn't answer the Trump question at all.
The question is, right now, what's all been revealed is, when he gets in, and he said himself, we need to go to same-day voting paper ballots. You know what I've told him? I said, you know what? I know I'm fighting them, the machine companies, and I call it the uniparty globalists out there. I'm fighting that, not the Democrat Party, the Republican Party. I think it's deeper than that. I said, and this is their tool for election. So in order for him, if he gets in and he says, hey, we got to go to same-day voting, you got to have the people behind it. All people. That's why my plan, and I'm meeting in Chicago. I'm going to the DNC. I'm going to go there. I want to go there and say, hey, we all need to grab our mail-in ballots. And then when you go to vote, if they say you voted, that's identity theft. Then everybody's going to be upset with that in your county. You say, hey, my Amy and Joe, they went down to vote and they said they already voted and they had the ballot. Then it will get looked into, so we all agree on a safe and secure election going forward.
All right, can I tell you something funny? So I wanted to fill out my mail-in ballot, but it ran out of time. So I took it in, just like you want, in California. You know what they said? Mike Lindell has already voted for you. No, I'm kidding. No, okay. No.
CNN, if you're still here, don't do that. Come on now. I told the CNN guys I went live. Right?
Okay. So no, by the way, that did happen, except the last part, obviously. They're like, oh no, it shows that you didn't vote yet. So yes, hand it in, and you'll be able to vote. So it went perfectly fine, even in your scenario. I'm just curious.
Example, so many people got there, even in the Newsom recall, they got there. I was out there then, and they went all the way in to vote. And they said, "You've already voted." Now they sit there and they're like calling him a liar, and they call him a liar, and they go, "No, I didn't vote," but they said, "We'll fill out a provisional ballot." By the way, California has some great laws nobody knows about when it comes to the handicap what they had, because that's the excuse they used to keep the machine. In California, their law was very good. It's like when you and I have a notary, there's so many different kinds of handicap. And if I come in, I got to sign, this is okay if this person sees my vote. It's like signing a notary, you give them permission, no matter what your handicap is, then you're covered for him to be able to see who you voted for, or you bring it,
Okay, so for a while, it looked like My Pillow was going bankrupt. Did it not happen? Is it still in business?
We had our biggest week of the year last week. And that's happened last year when I announced the plan. American Express, never been late in my life. They went away. We got debanked, demerchant server. Our vendors, they cut credit back. So we had a $25 million squish. In other words, if I had a 120-day credit without stuff product from overseas to get, they squished it down to 30 days. Well, I became the bank for millions upon millions of dollars. Then other vendors that were worried jumped on board. And because we were, it's through a lot of prayer that we've gotten this far, that we got through it all. But the media grabs that. And I don't understand why they attack a company like My Pillow, the American dream. I used to be the media's darling. But Mike, you walk across the street, how many more employees are you hiring? Wow, you're doing so much for addiction, so much for the veterans, so much for the inner city. I had a foundation, all I did was pour money into everywhere. Money's not a thing, I want to help people. When I did that, then in the summer of 16, I met Donald Trump. I never voted in my life. I was a crack addict. I met Donald Trump. I said, "Hey, this guy," I talked to his employees. They said, "Good man, good leader." And I talked to him one-on-one. He asked me about My Pillow and being in the country and how's it working out. And it was just a one-on-one of talking to a businessman. Then he asked about, I said, I used to be a crack addict. I had the Lindell Recovery Network. And he said, "I'm going to stop the drugs for you." So I went all in for him. And I did a press release. All of a sudden, the media hated me. In fact, they called me the biggest drug dealer in Minneapolis. And my drug dealer stuck up for me and said he never dealt a drug in his life. He tried to rid Minneapolis of drugs by doing them all, Okay,
all right.
So with my point being, then the Better Business Bureau took My Pillow from an A+ to an F. It's still an F. That's just fantastic. I got attacked for what I believed was a great candidate. Yeah. And that's wrong.
I actually have a follow-up question about that, because you have been willing to sacrifice almost everything, right? Your business, your reputation, all of that, to help Trump. You believe that the election was.
That's not true. What you're saying there.
Your support of Trump is what kind of propelled you.
Me wanting to get rid of the last year has been the biggest attack on me in history and my company. Why? I don't sit out there and say don't you think everyone says, well, the 2020 election, that ship sailed. It's because I want to get rid of the machines. There's a lot of power.
And you want to get rid of the machines. Let me ask the question
right,
though. So there have been reports that the Trump family has kind of distanced themselves from you. Is
Nobody said that.
Really? When was the last time you spoke to them or anyone?
I was with our great real president about a week ago. I spent 2 hours with him, and I'm down in Mar-a-Lago. I said, we're friends. When I heard about this assassination attempt, I was actually landing and I couldn't get to the truth they're saying. I was crying, bawling, because he's my friend. No, it wasn't like, oh, what's going to happen to the world, whatever. He's my friend and he's a good man. That's what it was. And I was praying for him on the plane. That's what it was.
So you guys do talk regularly and he consults with you?
We talk regularly as friends. When people say, "Oh, did you talk about this?" No, we talk about we're friends. I don't have an agenda, and he knows that.
Yeah.
We encourage. He's always optimistic. I've told him, he worries about our country. He says the destruction that's going on. I said, God's got his hand in all this. You look up patience, you don't see a picture of me, and probably not him either, right? But I said, this is on God's timing, not ours. When we get to a great place for our country, which I believe we have to have secure elections, but I don't care who's in power, that doesn't matter. And we get to that great place, we're going to look back and say, all of it had to happen just the way it did. God's given us grace right now for such a time as this. And our end goal is obviously everybody to get to heaven. I think people don't look to God when things are going good. They look to it when things aren't going so good. And people are praying.
Okay, so
I've been praying for you,
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. And I didn't know you were still doing pillow talk with Trump. But that's good. That's interesting. Okay, so one last thing.
He's a very good friend of mine.
So one last thing. So you you center your life around prayer a lot and,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
faith.
That's it.
Right.
Jesus Christ.
So did that start with the fellowship, or did you meet the folks at the fellowship, the family and the prayer breakfast, etc.
No.
After you got religious?
No, here's what happened. In January 16, 2009, I prayed. I was I had all these addictions, crack cocaine, alcohol, cigarette, you name it. I prayed to God that I would wake up and never have the desire again. And I woke up and it was gone. But it was such a transformation. I thought that's the day I got saved. I look at things as mathematical odds to prove that God exists. If you see something that's a 1 in a million or a 1 in a billion, or this is impossible, when do you add it together and consider it a miracle? And things started happening to me all the way up to February 18th. Ready for this? 2017, when I got on my knees and hit a full surrender to Jesus Christ. Now, I had one thing I couldn't do. I could never talk in front of people. You could see me on a commercial, but here I am a month later.
You're talking now.
Yeah, we can't stop you.
I had fear. I had fear. You know why? I had fear of rejection. You don't get rejected if you don't talk. I had fear of public speaking. 2 people I couldn't talk to you two. And up to a month after I got saved there, in US Bank Stadium in front of 50,000 people, they told a little bit of my story of being this crack cocaine addict and getting saved. And I had to lead 50,000 people in prayer. I didn't even know how to pray at that time,
How do you feel about, the Republican Party kind of poking fun of Hunter Biden's
I think it's horrible. Anybody poking fun of anything of the Bidens, I mean, you've never heard me. The shirt that said "Let's go, Brandon."
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't even take pictures of people that had that. I thought it was,
wow.
Absolutely not. I mean, this isn't about Democrats or Republicans. This is about us as people. Hunter Biden had a terrible addiction like I did. In fact, I heard someone that talked to him said, Mike, Hunter Biden actually says you're one of the people on the right that he really likes.
Are you also into modern art now?
No.
A Ukrainian gas expert at all? No? Okay.
And
all right.
I hope he really did get saved, because the only way I have my addiction platform, LindellRecoverynetwork.org, and getting off all your addictions is just a bonus. Getting to our real Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is where it leads you to. And I hope Hunter Biden got there. I pray he did. It's people say it's because he met this gal or whatever, and hopefully that leads him to completely stay off and stuff. And
yeah. Well, he met a gal, you met a guy. The guy you met is named Jesus Christ.
That's exactly right. I thought you were going to say, I love this guy.
Well, Mike, listen,
I'll tell you what, I come in with a whole different attitude of and he promised me, and you kept your promise. He didn't use God's name in vain today. I didn't swear. We got along.
All right.
You must have seen when I called that lawyer or something, right, on TV, and I said the a-hole thing. Remember that?
I remember that. That was fun.
He didn't call my pillows lumpy. He's okay.
Okay. All right, Mike, listen, we obviously disagree on a lot, but I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate you came on.
Thank you. It's good to have this conversation. I thank you both.